Hello, my name's Stephen Kohler. I'm a sub-Grand Master of the Ohara School of Ikebana, and I've been studying Ikebana here in Japan for the past 18 years. Today, I would like to show you how to make a beautiful, basic Tateru-katachi from the Ohara School of Ikebana. Ikebana is something that everyone can't do because of where they live. They may not be able to find a teacher. You may not be able to find the materials that you need. But today I would like to show you that it's a very simple thing to do. Anybody can do it as long as you have a few things. So what do we need? So for Ikebana, we need some type of container. And then in order to be able to cut your materials, you're going to need some Ikebana scissors. If you can't find Ikebana scissors, you can use some gardening shears also, and that will work. And then we're going to need a kenzan. And a kenzan is something that's very important for Ikebana. A kenzan is something that we stick our materials into. Sometimes people call these frogs, but it's a very heavy piece of material, very heavy metal, and then there are little pins stuck all in it. And this is what we are going to stick our materials into. And then, of course, for anything to do with Ikebana, we have to have some type of material. So it's very easy. So we have our container here, and this is a container from the Ohara School of Ikebana. And down here at the very bottom, there's a little hole in the front center, and then on the opposite side, there's a hole off to the side. Today, for the Tateru-katachi, we're going to be doing our arrangement directly in the center of the container. So I want to make sure that this little hole is in the front. Now, your container may be just a simple round container, a square container, anything will work. But if you do have a hole in the container, make sure that that hole is in the center. So we have our container, and then we have our kenzan. And today, this kenzan is very heavy, and it can slide around in our container. So I have a little piece of newspaper that I folded up, and I'm going to put that underneath my kenzan. That will help to protect my container and also help it to keep from sliding around. And then, of course, we need some water. So I'm going to fill up my container here. Always important to have fresh, clean water when you're doing an arrangement. And you want to make sure that you cover your kenzan. The more water you have, the longer your arrangement will last. So we've got our water in there. And now we need our materials. So for today's arrangement, I have some beautiful sekka willow, or fasciated willow. This is found in Japan here during the fall and winter season. Very, very beautiful. And then today, for the other part of our arrangement, for the other material, I have some beautiful dark red chrysanthemums. And I think this color combination with this green of the sekka willow is going to be very, very beautiful. And as you can see, I don't have very many stems. I have 3 stems of our willow and 2 stems of our chrysanthemum. And that's all we need to make a very beautiful, dynamic, large arrangement. You don't need a lot of flowers. So first, I need to figure out my shushi, which is the main material, the main stem of our arrangement. So I have 3 stems here, and I want to choose one that's got a little bit of interest to it, something that will look very beautiful, rising tall into the arrangement. And I think this piece here has a little bit of curve up at the top, and that looks very, very beautiful. So I'm going to use this as my shushi. And then I have 2 other stems. One of these stems will also be used a little bit taller, and one will be used down low. So I need to look at these carefully and decide which one do I want to be tall and which one do I want to be low. The one that's tall needs to be a little bit smaller. So I'm going to look at these carefully and try to find the smaller one. And I think today this one, well, maybe not. I think this one does feel a little bit smaller. I like the curve on this one, so using that down low to show the curve going up, I think will be very beautiful. So I've looked carefully at my materials and figured out which ones I want to use where in the arrangement. Very important when doing an arrangement. Okay, so here we have our shushi, the subject, the main stem of the arrangement. This has a specific length. We're going to think that there is a rose, the head of a rose on the end of our stem here, so I'm going to go down about an inch and a half, about 5-6 centimeters. And I'm going to measure this once, twice, the width of our container, and now also twice the height of our container. Once, twice, and now I'm going to make my cut. So our shushi, the main stem, can be up to twice the length and height of the container. So one more time, we've got 1, 2, and then 1, 2. It's a little long, so I'm going to cut it just a little bit shorter. And the key for this is up to twice. So it can be a little bit shorter. Ooh, that exploded off the table there. So here we have a beautiful stem for our shushi, the main branch of the arrangement. Now, we have our kenzan in here, and we're going to insert this into the kenzan. Where do we insert this into the kenzan? Let's take a closer look. So here we have our kenzan in the center of the container. And we don't want to pull this to the back, and we don't want it to be directly up to the front. We want it to be in the center, but a little closer towards the front. We always want to try to keep our kenzan near that front edge. And now we're going to imagine that we have a center line going down our kenzan, down the center, a horizontal line down the center. And we're going to insert our shushi in the very back. This stem is very, very thick and very hard. So to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to cut this at a slight angle and hope that doesn't fly off and hit the camera. There we go, it flew off the table, so that's okay. And now also, I'm going to cut into this vertically, into our cut here. And that's going to make it a little bit easier to stick into the kenzan. So we're going to pull this along that center line in the very, very back of the kenzan and insert that in. Okay. So before we insert this into the container, we need to look at this very carefully. I want to show this off. I want to show the most beautiful side of this, the most beautiful shape, the most beautiful curve. I don't just want to take this and insert it in. I want to show off the beauty of the stem. So I'm going to look at this very carefully and try to find a beautiful line, a beautiful shape. And I think today something like this is very, very beautiful. It rises up and has a little bit of movement, and I get to see a little bit of that craggly subject up here at the top. So I found my face. It's looking forward beautifully, and I'm going to insert it in the rear of the kenzan along that center line. This is quite hard, so I'm going to press very carefully. There we go. Now, we want our shushi to rise up tall and be in the center. Right now, it's going a little off to the side, so I'm going to pull it over slightly so we have the top going directly down, and we have a beautiful straight line. Well, not a straight line. We have it centered in our container here. So that looks very nice. Next, we need to use one of our chrysanthemums. So I have 2 chrysanthemums here. One of these is going to be the kyakushi, which is the focal point of our arrangement. And then one is going to be used up a little taller, a little higher in the arrangement. So I need to look at these very carefully. If I have one that's a little bit larger, this one is actually larger, something larger feels heavy, so I need to use it low in the arrangement. This one is a little bit smaller. It feels light, so I'm going to use it taller in the arrangement. So I'm going to take my larger piece here, and I'm going to measure it. The length of our kyakushi is 1/3 the length of our shushi. So I'm going to insert this, or turn it upside down. And to me, this is an easy way to do this. Turn it upside down and cut it to about 1/3 the length here. So now let's see if I've got this right. Once, and I measure just below the head of the flower, 2, 3, so it's a perfect length, 1/3 the length of our shushi. This is going to be inserted in the center and tilt down 45 degrees to the front. So let's take a quick look at that. So here we have the front of our container, and we have the kenzan near the front edge. We have our horizontal line, our vertical line, going through the center of the kenzan. Today, our kyakushi is going to be inserted in that front, inserted in, and then it's going to lean forward 45 degrees. So along that center line in the very front, and then it's going to bend down, lean forward 45 degrees to the front. Okay. So like we did with our willow branch here, we want to make sure that we find the beautiful face of this flower. So I'm going to tilt it towards myself 45 degrees. Ooh, that looks nice. And our flower face is looking up. Very, very important. We wouldn't want our flower face to look down. When it looks down, it feels sad. And then your whole arrangement feels sad. You want something that feels happy, feels excited, full of energy. So make sure that the face of your flower is looking up. And I did, okay. And we're going to insert that in along that center line in the very front. Insert it in, and then tilt it forward 45 degrees. And here we have our beautiful shushi and kyakushi. Next, after we have these two flowers, I'm going to insert in my tall shushi filler. I want to add a little more interest up here, so I'm going to take this and invert it up and cut it to a little bit shorter. Everything else in the arrangement, ooh, those are thick stems. Everything else in the arrangement is free. The only things that are really specified are your shushi and your kyakushi. Everything else we can kind of put where we want. There is a filler area that we need to make sure everything is inside, but there's no specific length. However, if I were to put something in like this, very tall, it's also quite tall. And now I don't know, is this my shushi? Is this my shushi? Which one's the main branch? So this needs to be shorter. A good rule of thumb is about 2/3 to 3/4 the length of your shushi for your tall shushi filler. So I'm going to cut that a little bit shorter and see. And I think today, because it's such a strong stem, even a little bit shorter is going to look nice. And something like that, ooh, that does. That looks nice. So again, I'm going to cut this at an angle and then cut up into it so it's a little bit easier to insert into the kenzan. And now let's see where I insert this into the kenzan. So here we have our kyakushi in the front and our shushi in the back, and we have our center line, and we have all this space in between the two stems. So today, all the other materials are going to be inserted somewhere along this center line. For our tall shushi filler, we're going to insert this back here near our shushi, but we're not going to put these very close together. We want to leave a little bit of space in between. So there's a little bit of space there, and we're going to insert this in somewhere like that. We don't want to put it on the side or way over here or way up front. We want it near the back along that center line. Okay. So we know where we're going to insert this in, but like we did before, we need to look at this very carefully to make sure that we have found a beautiful side, something that looks interesting. And today, I think here we have our shushi going a little bit over here to the left. So our other stem, I want to go a little bit in the opposite direction. So I think this has a beautiful curve going out to the right. So I'm going to insert these two in, something like this. And I think that is going to be very, very beautiful, something like that. And we have something going up and then splitting off, which looks very beautiful. So let me insert that in along that center line, press it down in there. These are very thick stems today. Oh, there we go, popped in. Okay, and it's also leaning forward slightly. As you can see now, we have our shushi in the back, we have our tall shushi filler, and then we have our object in the front. Next, I'm going to insert in our other chrysanthemum, our tall kyakushi filler. This also has no specific length. We just want these two flowers to have some type of connection where they can feel like they are communicating together. We also don't want this stem to overpower our shushi, the main stem. So if I were to insert in something like this, it does look very nice, but these two flowers are too far away. They can't communicate with each other. This is also very, very tall. It's very tall compared to our shushi, so it needs to be shorter. Usually a good rule of thumb is about half of your shushi and then a little bit taller or a little bit shorter. The only thing you don't want to do is make it the exact half of your shushi. So I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter. Little by little is good. If I cut something too short the first time, I can't make it longer. But if I cut something longer, I can always cut it until I find that perfect length. And now we're going to see here if this is a good length. And I think that could work, but I'm going to do it just a little bit shorter, little by little. more cut. And let's see if we insert this in. Okay, now we have a good length between those two. They're still not too far away, they're able to communicate with each other, and this looks nice. Now, where do we insert this into the kenzan? Let's take a closer look. So here we have our kyakushi in the front, and we have our tall shushi filler. We still have some space here along that center line, so we're going to insert our tall kyakushi, our other chrysanthemum, into that space along that center line, somewhere along in here. We don't want to put it right next to, right behind that kyakushi. We want to pull it back a little bit so there's some space in between all of these stems. That will help give your arrangement a little bit more depth and also make it feel a little bit more dynamic. So somewhere along in here will look very, very nice. Okay, so now we know where we're going to insert this in. So I need once again to look very carefully at this material to make sure the face is looking up. As you can see, this has a slight curve to it, so I want to show that off if I can. I wouldn't want to insert it in where I lose that curve and now it's just a straight line. I think if I do something like that, that will look very, very beautiful. So I'm going to put this in between there where we talked about, where it's looking up, making sure it's looking up, insert that in, and then I want to make sure this is leaning slightly forward. Leaning slightly forward helps to bring the viewer into the arrangement. So when we look at this from the side, you can see we have our shushi, our tall shushi filler. In front of that, kind of hard to see, but in front of that now we have our tall kyakushi filler, and then down here we have our kyakushi. So everything is fanning down, 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 and that creates depth and makes a very dynamic arrangement. Now, I could stop here with this and have a very beautiful, interesting arrangement, but I have one more stem of our sekka willow, and I'm going to use this out here on the side to create some space. In Ikebana, space is also very, very important. Sometimes you want something that rises up, and other times you want something that kind of goes out to the side. Today, I think that these chrysanthemums are extremely beautiful. I love this dark maroon color. So I want to help show that off. So if I create some space here, these chrysanthemums will be in that space and it will show off the beauty even more. So I'm going to use this stem somewhere out here on the side. Now, we do have a filler area. Out to the sides, we can only go out to about 1/2 the length of our shushi. So I can't insert something in like this. Even though that looks very beautiful, very dynamic, it's too far out. These two are competing with each other. The shushi is the main stem. So I need to pull this in and make it a little bit shorter so you're able to see that. And now I know that this is the main stem. So I'm going to look here and think, okay, that looks nice. And make my cut. This might be a little longer. You can see now it's almost at 1/2. So I'm going to cut it a little bit shorter because I don't want it to overpower. And now, extend this off to the side, somewhere like this. I think looks very nice. Ooh, that does. That looks nice. Now, where have I inserted this into the kenzan? Let's take a look. So here we have our kyakushi, our tall kyakushi filler, our tall shushi filler, and our shushi in the very back. Everything along that center line. I still have a little bit of space here. So I'm going to use that space for my low shushi filler, and I'm going to put this somewhere along in here. And that's going to look very, very beautiful. So everything is along that center line of the kenzan, and that makes the arrangement look very beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to insert this in, making sure that I have this little curlicue looking up. When that looks up, that makes this branch feel lively, feel like it has energy, and that makes everything else look lively and energetic. I wouldn't want to insert this down with the end going down. That makes it look sad and brings down the energy of the whole arrangement. So I want to make sure that that's looking up very, very beautifully. So insert that in. Pull it down. So I've created some beautiful space here within these stems, and I can see those chrysanthemums very, very beautifully. When we look from the side, you can see I have a sekka stem, another sekka stem, a chrysanthemum, a sekka stem, and then another chrysanthemum. So everything is going down, 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 and there is a sekka stem in between the two chrysanthemums, and that helps to bring and connect everything together and make a very cohesive arrangement. And it's very, very important that everything is stair-stepping down, 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 down. That makes a beautiful arrangement. So here we have a finished arrangement from the Ohara School of Ikebana. Today we have created a beautiful Tateru-katachi, the rising form arrangement. As you can see, I've only used 5 stems, but I have been able to create a very beautiful, dynamic, large arrangement with only 5 stems. Ohara School of Ikebana doesn't use a lot of flowers. We want to show off the beautiful lines. Each stem is very, very important. So using fewer stems shows off the beauty and makes a very beautiful, dynamic arrangement with lots of movement. If you enjoyed this video and you're interested, please have a look at my site, stephenkohler.com. I offer online video lessons which take you through step by step, and I explain the why behind each thing that I do in the video. Today I was very quick because I wanted to show you, but in the videos I take a lot more time and I explain the positioning, why I turn something like this, why it's leaning down, why it should go here. Knowing the why, I think, helps you master the skill a lot quicker. And it also enables you to take that why and apply it to other materials, so you're able to create different arrangements with different materials. So if you're interested, please take a look at stephenkohler.com. Also, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me, and I will be happy to get back with you as soon as I can. I hope you've enjoyed today's little lesson on the Tateru-katachi, and I hope and wish you well on your own Ikebana journey. Thank you.